So we had a rainstorm today, right? We have in Kansas City in this area, we had rain and we had lightning. And my little one woke up this morning and she looked at me and she said, I don't think I'm going to have school today. And I said, I don't think you're going to have school today either because it's Sunday. So we have church today. And she said, well, I don't think we're going to have church today. And she was referring to the lightning and the thunder, and she had all these reasons why that's not workable. And I said, lightning storms and thunderstorms aren't something that keep us back. They are not something that hold us back or keep us from doing what we're doing. And then I went into a little bit and I said, tornadoes might be, winter storms might be, flooding might be, but rain and lightning don't hold us back. What holds you back? What kind of storms hold you back? Are they emotional? Are they physical? Are they financial? Are they mental? Are they spiritual? Jim Rosemergy, who is a well-known elder in our unity movement. He has written many books and he has done workshops and led many congregations. He was recently at our unity conference and he was one of the keynote addresses that did a workshop with all of the ministers. So he had all of us in one room and he sat us in small groups and he asked us this question. What do you think it is with your experience in unity, either in the center you're in now or centers you've been in or what you've seen in the movement or what you've heard about, what do you think it is that holds us back? If there was one thing you could identify that holds back unity centers, what do you think it is? And so we sat in our tables and we discussed, and he had some prefab answers he put on a sheet, and then we all came up with our ideas. But I pose that question to each one of us today as individuals in our own lives. What holds us back? If there was one thing, a theme, an issue, something that long-term, over time, not just this month, this year, but if you look at your history, if you look at yourself, what's the one thing that keeps you from going higher? Has anyone heard of the flea circus? I know I've talked about it before on Sundays. Have you heard of the flea circus, right? The flea circus is a little thing that's created by people that torture animals. No, just kidding, torture creatures. A flea circus is a thing where you can put a cover, glass cover over a flea. You could put it in an area and put a cover over it, and the flea will hop up, and it'll hit its head and bounce it back down. It'll hit its whole body probably. And a flea, I forget how high they can jump. It's like a gazillion times their height. It's such a spiritual metaphor, right? Because it's us. It's what we are capable of. If you look at science and you look at brain science and you look at spiritual work and deep work, you look at that stuff, we are so capable. We are so full of light that can be, that can illumine the world. But we operate a little bit like this flea circus. So you put that cover over it and the flea will jump, and finally it'll learn just to go just below there. And then you can take the glass off and you've got yourself a flea circus. They all stay right there and they only hop as high as the limitation that they once ran into, even when that limitation is no longer present, yeah? So too are we in the human condition. We're born in the spiritual condition without limitations. That's the truth of our being. We are spiritually unlimited, but we are also human, yeah? So we have all these experiences. We get all of this feedback saying, no, stop, you're too much, or not like that, or whatever it is. Press down, get down, not like this, not like that. Don't go in that direction. Stay right here on this little space. And this is generally from where we operate, right here. And we tend to think inside of this box, even when we're doing things. weeks, I was doing cabinets in my house, right? And I'm thinking cabinets, I got to have cabinets. Cabinets are super expensive, and I just don't think they're that fun. Windows, I think, are a lot of fun. I'd spend a lot of money on a window, but a cabinet, not as much fun for me. And then it was brought to my attention, like, what about floating shelves? You seem kind of like, well, I actually was talking about someone's live wood edge floating shelves. And did you know the live wood edge earth, Mother Earth, wood, less expensive than fancy cabinets? And I was like, that works for me. Just a few high cabinets to hide my not attractive stuff, and the rest, pottery and ball jars, here I come. But we think in this little circle, and we move in this little circle. We do it with our jobs, we do it with our families, we do it with our relationships, we do it with our homes, we do it with our lives, we do it with our psyche, we do it with our emotions, we do it with our physical health. We do it with our systems. We do it with our structures. Do you believe that there is more than enough in this moment, enough insight, enough wisdom, enough intelligence, enough resilience, enough ability to pivot that we could solve most of the world's issues right here and right now if we said yes to the right things? You know what I do in times of trouble? I get myself magazines like Popular Mechanics and those science magazines, because I love seeing people that are like too smart to be in an earth suit. I love watching them think and the things they come up with, the inventions. There is more than enough. That is a spiritual principle. That God's abundance is everywhere present all the time, inexhaustible. That if I use it to its maximum capacity, guess what? The same amount is there for you. The same amount is there for them. There is no limit to Godness. That is the realm of ideas. That is the realm of spiritual substance. That's light, that's life, that's love, that's intelligence. It is here, it is abundant, it is inexhaustible. But we often operate in this little circle. We often have our own little flea circus. And then we sometimes try to get ourselves outside of that flea circus by saying someone else needs to change something. Because there's a glass over my head. There is a limitation around me. But when we dive in spiritually, we recognize there is no glass. There is only sky. So what is the one thing that holds you back? Over time, long-term, systematic breakdown. Like if you were the CEO of a company and you just got hired to come in, take over that company and find out what has been holding them back. And you're doing interviews with every employee. That means interviews with your feelings, interviews with your thoughts, interviews with the systems in your mind, interviews with your education, interviews with the whole system saying, what is it that holds us back? What has kept us stuck in one area or another, or the theme of our lives? Where do we fall? Where do we falter? Where do we trip up over and over again? The sticking point, the pattern, the emotional weather front, the story we keep telling. A Course in Miracles says, the power of decision is my own. The power of decision is my own. I may not get to design the weather. I may not get to decide everything that comes to me, everything that happens to me, everything I interact with. But the power of decision is my own. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Now, sometimes it's hard to see these things for ourselves, so let's just do an exercise here, a group exercise. What keeps humanity back? Anyone want to give it a go? What keeps humanity back? Like, think about all these inventions. Think about what we can do, right? We know in this instant we could feed the world, right? We know in this instant we could power the world. Who has enough stuff in their home to, house about 5 households full, right? Right? So what is it that holds humanity back? You could go for our nation. You could go for global. What holds us back? Fear, selfishness, fear of not having enough, greed, judgment, politics, power, ego, jealousy, separation. Yeah. Self-interest, right? Separation. If you get to all of those, you can actually put all of those together. I bet if we, I should have got Chat GPT up here today. I bet if we put all of those into Chat GPT and we said, what is the one thing? It would come up with one thing. But I bet it would have a fusion of those things, right? Because when we consider something else as other, right? When we have separation, then we have power issue, then we have politics, then we have lack of consideration, right? Then we have judgment. All of these things swirl together to make one thing, which is duality, right? Considering something not myself. If we were able to not be in fear and we were able to pool all of our highest things, we would have resolution. We would have movement. We'd have the sky as the limit. So what's the one thing for you? Take a moment, just breathe into that. If you can't think of one thing, that's okay. Just give it the light touch. But can you think of one theme? It's like, me and my soul, I do come back to this. This was a thread. Just breathe into that for a moment. If there was a thread and I was weaving it, where is that needle going through each time as I'm weaving? What's the recurring theme that comes back to me in my life or my experience or my relationships that I struggle with or that I think has limited me? And when you have it, stick it in one hand, hold it there. Now I invite us to think about one thing, the power of which would make a difference in moving your intentions, your heart, your peace forward, your life forward. What is one thing, the power of which, the presence of which, would make a significant difference? If I had, fill in the blank, it would resolve the highest number of issues that I feel in my own life. Think about what that might be, one thing. Distill it down. And if you're going into specifics, like, think about what underlies that thing. And go back to some of those issues. If I had one thing, is it self-worth? One thing, prosperity, faith. If it's something like a car, then go deeper. If it's something like $1 million bank account, go deeper. Can you think of it? Give me a little nod. If you have one thing, if you're in one of our platforms, go ahead and share if you want to share. Type it into the space. What's one thing that would have the greatest impact on your life, on my life? Maybe it's courage, wisdom, clarity. Not 12 things, one. Not a whole self-help library, one practice, one truth, one sacred yes, one thing. You got it? Put it in the other hand. Okay. I was recently with Adela, who led the meditation for us last week. I know her from Unity of Montclair, and she's now at the Unity in the Houston area. And we were talking about her observations. She was giving some observations of me and my ministry and who I am. And it was funny to hear it from the outside in. You know, we were talking about other ministers and leaders, and she just did like a little point out to what she's seen in me through the years. And she said, there's that one thing that she does. And I was curious, kind of like, what's she going to say? Because I got no idea. You know, I got no rule book. And she said, it's the pounce. And I was like, I wonder what that is. Is it when I get triggered and I attack people? No, just kidding. It's not that. She said she moves on things quickly. You move on it when you get the yes. When you get the yes, you pounce. When you get the yes, you invite in. When you get it, you go. When you get it, you move. And that is true. That would be one thing. I remember one of my friends saying something. I was feeling just very down about things in my life. And I remember she said, Erin, you're the most courageous person I know. And I was like, pfft. On what planet am I the most courageous person you know? You got to get out more. But now I can put that all together. I realize what she's talking about is the pounce. Because when I get something, when I know, you know what I'm talking about? When you know something, I move forward into it. And it doesn't matter how scared I am. It doesn't matter how inadequate I feel. It doesn't matter how skilled or unskilled I believe I am, whatever it is, I lay that aside because I get it and I got it and I get that I might be prepared for this now moment. Of course, I am not yet prepared for that moment of that thing that I'm ideating that I got. But what I do is I have faith and I apply it. Faith, the perceiving power of the mind, as Charles Fillmore said, linked with the ability to shape substance. So I don't need to see the path, but what I can know is if I got a yes, I will be taken care of. I will be prepared as I go. So I will remove the judgment from my thinking that says, well, I can't. Well, of course you can't, little one. You have not been prepared for that yet. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's great pleasure to give you the kingdom. Fear not, little mind, for it is your source's great pleasure to bring to you the resource at the right time and the right space. So I learned to back myself off from attacking my own self, not because it was easy. And what the appearance of that is courage. Courage isn't pretty. We act like courage is all pretty. Strong. We do that with the kids. Strong. Strength isn't like that, is it? No, that's force. Strength is quiet. Strength is gentle. Strength is sometimes solitary. This is no diss on the guns because we're in Missouri, you know, and it's a hot button for our nation. But think about the courage and strength. If you look at what courage and strength are, we think we know what they are. But, you know, men are often stronger, right? Physically stronger. But I would say there's probably more women that live in solo, single, or female-only households without guns or without guns in their glove boxes rather than carrying them around on their hips, right? Or having them in their glove box or having them in their home or lots of them in their home, right? So what's strength? What's strength? If we walk around from day to day, from month to month, from year to year in environments without a gun, what's courage? What's strength? What's the one thing that would make a difference and have the greatest impact if we were to focus on it? A spiritual thing, if we were to focus on it and bring it in and stand in it and stand with it and stand for it in our lives. And then what is the one thing that has been hindering us that we'd love to just, if we could just jack it to Jesus? Someone asked me that. They said, how did you ever come up with that term? I was in ministerial school with a Pentecostal woman, Tina Brown, Reverend Tina Brown. We called her Reverend Downtown Tina Brown. She grew up Pentecostal. She used to do a couple things. She'd do the get thee behind me when something was tricky, and then she'd go jack it to Jesus, which means like the whole song, Jesus Take the Wheel, which means like, sweet Spirit God of all life, remove this from me. The one thing that if I was no longer engaging it, participating in it, believing in it, reinforcing it, reinventing it, that I would get out of this circus and move on to my spiritual birthright and conscious destiny. I would be able to pounce. Some people think that issues or problems can be solved by more money. They can't. Others think that relationships can be resolved by others healing. They don't. Many think systems will change when someone else makes a different choice. They don't. We do not change the world by what we do, but by what we are. Eric Butterworth. We do not change the world by what we do, but by what we are. And Eckhart Tolle says, whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. Whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. What I get from that quote is if I can start to embody it, I can start to give it. If I can start to give it, I will start to see it. If I can be it, right, I can see it. I can become it. I can circulate it. But we often sit in this system of thinking something outside needs to change and that's where the key is and that's what's holding the lock. But truth is unlimited. The truth is God can do no more to me than God can do through me, and that includes the grand overall design, God. So what can I do? I have keys and tools. What I can do is I can pivot from what is the human condition and very normal, very common, not a problem, which is we pray for everything else to change. We pray, 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 give me more money, give us more money, give this, that, whatever it is, more money, more money, more money, more money. Has anyone ever wasted money? Does anyone have a penny that they have maybe not well, well stewarding? Right? Does anyone think if they had what someone else had, they would have done something different and they would have been better off or made wiser choices? Yeah, because it's not about the money. Money is a representation of energy flow. So we can pivot from praying this stuff away and praying that someone else will change, praying in that someone else will take the glass ceiling off, and recognizing the source of our being would never have us under a glass ceiling in the first place. So instead, what do? Instead, we take those things we have in our hands and we work with them. The thing that the presence of which would make a difference, pray in that thing. Develop that thing. Become that thing. Pray it in. Develop it. Become it. That other thing, even in unity, we like to burn it in the burning bowl or call it toxic. But you know what else we can do? There's a deeper invitation. We can name it, claim it, and tame it. Name it, claim it, and tame it. I'll explain that. Awareness is the first step of healing. Awareness is the first step of healing. Sometimes that's all it takes, is naming it, seeing it and naming it. The next is claiming it. People have space and grace for problems. Has anyone loved you despite yourself? Right? I got a lot of people that love me in the midst of who I am. Messy life, broken halo and all. There is more than enough love. There is more than enough space for your belonging, for our belonging, for my belonging, for the world's belonging, without having to have anyone be perfect or even the best. And that's why we move to tame it. Get to know this thing. Get to know it. Understand it. Develop a relationship with it. Michael Singer, the author of The Untethered Soul, said, "The obstacle is not the problem. The belief that there should be no obstacle is the problem." Change it around. Pivot. Because what we do when we push it away, rather than name it, claim it, tame it, when we push it away instead, it's like sending a child with a temper tantrum under the table. The definition of tame is brought from a state of native wildness so as to become tractable or easy to control or influence and useful to humans. right? We know it as to domesticate, to become docile, to be submissive, but it's really to make it not dangerous. To take something that seemed powerful or dangerous and to make it tame. Because if something becomes tame, it does not surprise you anymore. It is predictable. And so too is this little thing. It is predictable. It's generally going to be here. But we can pray in that one thing with clarity and courage. We can develop that one thing and give it spiritual muscles. We can become that one thing and make it our default setting. In Romans 12:2, it says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Our playing small, as Marianne Williamson says, does not serve the world. The only thing more powerful than fear is a decision to pounce at your divine yes and to move above the glass ceiling. Namaste.